Hello, everyone. This is my review for. No, these are the themes and the messages that I picked up for Captain America 4: Brave New World. Um, so I wasn't going to do these messages for anything after Endgame, but there are a few movies, Marvel movies, that really did inspire me. This is one of them. Sam Wilson's character, he represents a lot. He comes from a lot as a character. So some of the themes and the messages, some hidden themes and messages. Let me just get started on this. I love so the villain of this movie. So he had these percentages. He would say, "Oh, I thought there was this percentage that you would make this choice, or this percentage that you would make that choice." This was an interesting crossroad because the thing about the super serum, and again, this is the hidden themes and messages. So hidden. The thing about the super serum is that whenever someone takes it, it basically locks them into who they are, or it amplifies who they are, but it locks them into that personality. And it's nearly impossible to get this individual to change. That was the big issue with Carly's character in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was the fact that she took the super serum along with all of her people, with all her friends, and it amplified their personalities and locked them into who they were, and turned them into who they were. So when Sam tried to talk her down, it was nearly impossible to do so. um I can give some other examples, but the super serum just makes people more of who they are and locks them into that personality. So when the villain of this movie was saying there was a percentage that you would do this and you didn't do it, and um you went against my expectations, or whatever, or you surprised me, is what he said. You surprised me with this decision that you've made. Sam Wilson's character is very human. Bucky's character says that he's human doing the best he can, and the thing is, Sam Wilson's character represents what we as people in humanity can do to help each other out in the world. To just, what can we do? We don't have superpowers when it's just us and our skills and our experiences and our actions. How can we help the world out? How can we help each other out? And that's what Sam Wilson's character is all about. Sam's suit was made up of Wakandan, and I guess Ant-Man's helmet, and then the shield, and then his wings. He had different pieces of different suits, and this really shows that he is a blend of different individuals, of different cultures or whatever, but different kind of influences, and how all these things can kind of come together, and how they can be utilized, how he can utilize them to further amplify himself and further amplify just how he does his thing to save the world, basically. And as his suit evolutionizes, so does Sam's personality. Sam Wilson's character constantly has to push himself to learn or to adapt to whatever danger is ahead of him. And in this movie, you see that multiple times. Multiple times when something happens and he'll make a decision to sort of adapt to whatever the situation is going on, whatever is happening or is about to happen. And, he has to learn how to adapt to it. This is Sam Wilson's character as a human. As a human being, that's what we do, is when times get hard, when times get rough, that's when the true nature of our power shows. And that's when we have to the you know be the true the best versions of ourselves, make the right choices. But that's also the time when we need to evolve to be the person that we need to be for the sake of the situation. um sometimes doing things the hard way is necessary sometimes. But But yeah, so the conflict with Sam Wilson and the villain of this movie was that the villain was very logical and very and knew exactly how to calculate everything like a chessboard. Um, the hidden one of the hidden messages of the movie is that there is a brain. There is a mastermind out there that influences, and when it seems like there's all these chess pieces on the board and everyone's being manipulated and things in society are being tweaked, things are just being tweaked. There's a force out there, a mental force out there, um that's thinking all this through, and then you have certain individuals, certain people in power or position who has the ability to create these influences or carry these influences out, and everyone's going to look at these power figures, or people who have the influence, and say, hey, you're terrible, you're an awful person, you this, you that. Really, it's like there's something a bit more complicated going on here. I'm not trying to name any names, I'm not trying to do whatever, not but the conflict, but you have that, but then you also have Sam Wilson's character, who is like not so much an easy piece on the chessboard to move around, simply because the calculations that are done are based on, I guess you can say, cause and effect. But Sam Wilson's character is about evolution. So the fact that his character symbolizes evolution and how evolution can be used, especially through the sense of humanity, he constantly analyzes the situation and becomes who he needs to be in that moment. So because there is a constant change and evolution going on within the individual, it's actually impossible to put that to use that as a chess piece. For those of you who understand what I mean by that, and you understand the depth of what I just said. Um yeah, so that was a very strong message. Yeah, with Harrison Ford's character. This movie also dealt with the idea of dealing with internalized demons and internalized fear. Mostly fear, but when we have our internalized fear in our world, we hide it. Sometimes we'll hide it, and this movie does show what does that look like when we hide from our fears, or when the thing that we don't want to see or know about ourselves, what happens when it comes to the surface and actually shows itself. What would that actually look like? What would that be like? So this movie was about facing ourselves deep down inside, and Harrison Ford's character, him not wanting to deal with what was going on inside, really did possess him to do some crazy things and manipulate the people around him and the circumstances around him, and people got hurt, people got pushed away. It wasn't until the end of the movie that you see Harrison Ford's character in the cage that he understands. It's in that moment when Sam says, I'm glad that you took responsibility for who you are and for what you did. And when that honest conversation happened, and when Harrison Ford's character was honest about who he was and why he did what he did, and fully, exposed himself, then once the truth was out, then you understood that, things worked out. You don't always have to lie. You don't always have to lie in order for the best result to happen. Sometimes we're just scared that, someone sees that version of ourselves. Sometimes they'll see an ugly part of who we are, and they'll turn away from us and they'll hate us. And, sometimes the best thing to do is to let it out. And once you fully let that part out, you have to give it a chance to be dealt with, because you cannot get rid of something, or you can't set something free. You can't, you can't kill something that has never had a chance to live. So if you let these dark parts of yourself eat you up inside and you don't give them a chance to come out and live, then they're just gonna destroy everything around you. They're just gonna there's like a caged up animal basically. So in this movie, it took Harrison Ford's character to be exposed to the world, to expose himself and to expose his anger and his true intentions. And once the truth was out, then that's what manifested him as the Red Hulk. Once he was fully out and let all that out, all that rage, all that energy, once all that came out, then he was able to deal properly deal with what was happening inside. But until you us as until you as individuals are honest with yourselves and honest about who you are and why you do what you know unless you're truly honest about why you do what you do, and you truly face that fear inside of you, unless you do that, then there will be nothing to redeem within you. You can sit here and say, oh, I'm truthful, I know the truth, but deep down you're just telling yourself that just so that you don't have to deal just so you don't have to deal with it. A lot of the anger, a lot of the pain, a lot of the guilt that we have inside of ourselves, it manifests a monster or a face, and this monster, this persona, this monster is basically meant to protect itself as well as protect certain parts of who we are, to protect our belief system, protect the belief system that created the monster in the first place. So yeah, a lot of times when a healing process or an antidote or something comes to try and cure us of these pains, this monster will show up, and this monster will say, no, I feel threatened. I need to protect myself. I need to survive, and I need to protect the belief system that has created me. And that's when it comes out and it fully attacks. Until you learn how to hit that belief system, until you learn how to hit that creation point, then it can't. You'll never be able to fully move on. I say that because when we lie to ourselves, us lying to ourselves and not wanting to accept the truth of ourselves is basically what makes us into these unhonest people who will constantly will constantly give ourselves excuses not to want to change, not to want to adapt to change. Also, this was a conflict with Falcon and the Red Hulk, which was Sam Wilson's character representing adapting to change, whereas Harrison Ford's Red Hulk character represented resisting change. So I don't know if there's anything else. Oh yes, Harrison Ford was able to meet his daughter after everything simply because he accepted the truth of who he was. And once the truth was out there, then he was able to connect with what was important. It is important, if you want to connect with what is truly important with life and with yourself, then you have to learn the value of honesty and exposure of oneself. And you have to be willing to adapt to change. You have to be willing to adapt to it. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's any other messages or themes that I can say about this movie, but like I said, I wasn't going to do any kind of positive messages after Endgame, but there's a few that really stuck with me. And if I feel like I can say something to help the world out or bring some value to someone's someone's soul, then I will come on here and I will say it. I really hope that this reaches a lot of. I really hope that this helps whoever listens to it. But those. I think that's all I can say right now. As for the villain, that was exposed to the gamma ray. Um, oh, Isaiah's character. Yeah. I guess I can go into him too. So the character that was hit with the gamma rays, he was also hit with his fear, which was, he was told that he was able to, have his freedom or whatever after he helped the dude become president. After he helped Harrison Ford's character do that, he stayed locked up, and he's all like, "No, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here." Um, so he kind of faced his fear in a way, which was, being lied to and being locked away, and there was really nothing that he could do. Um, so he kind of, so yeah. And as for Isaiah's character, the last character I'll get into, which was, he had to face his fear, which was going into the White House, going into the belly of the beast. That was a big message of this movie, and what that means, what that looks like, going into the belly of the beast. um, is sometimes an ugly process, but that's when we find the true strength of who we are and what we're capable of. And so his biggest fear was to be locked up. He got locked up, and they said he had to go to solitary confinement. He said he would never go back into solitary confinement, and he did. And he faced a big battle by facing his fear. So Isaiah also had that message in this movie, and eventually Sam Wilson saved him. Eventually Sam Wilson got him out of there, and I admired that a lot, because sometimes sometimes locking ourselves up, sometimes having hope, sometimes having hope is the thing that we need, that would help us out. Sometimes being locked away or trapped is what we need to face in order to find the freedom within ourselves. Otherwise, we will be a slave to our fear of being a slave. So Isaiah's character brought that message into this movie. He was afraid. He was afraid to be locked. He was afraid, and he faced that fear. He got locked up. He didn't want to die. He got locked up. He didn't want to be confined. He got confined. He stayed there, and he faced that pain. He faced that fear, and it was the fact that he valued life more is what allowed him to beat that fear. And he was saved. He put himself in a position to allow himself to be saved and have hope again, and understand that, you know um sometimes it's the people around us that we call family, that we love, that actually saves us from our prisons. And sometimes we have to allow ourselves to be saved by them. I don't want to sound too repetitive, but I think I'm done. But yeah. So yeah, sometimes being a prisoner. All right, so I'm done. If I hopefully I helped. Thank you for listening to this, and do the best you can with everything you have in life. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed these messages and these themes. And just the last thing I'll say is, Captain America character is a symbol, not a character. And at the end of this movie, when you see the Red Hulk fight the Falcon, I think the Falcon was in his blue gear because it was Sam Wilson's authentic character that had to face the Hulk. It wasn't the Captain America symbolism suit that he had to wear in that moment. I just remembered one last thing. The original title of this movie, Captain America, was Captain America New World Order, and then it was changed to Captain America Brave New World. The original title, Order versus Brave New World. Brave New World was more of a opening of a door or an entrance or an invitation saying, oh, if we're going to enter a brave new world, we're entering a brave new world where we can learn to let the better parts of our humanity basically take over and become a dominant way of how we operate or live, versus New World Order was more of basically the same thing, but it was more on the lines of the Red Hulk's ideology or idea, which was this idea of living in a world of suppression and anger and constantly trying to hide the truth and constantly not dealing with the truth of who we are. When you understand that conflict between Captain America's character and the Red Hulk's character, you can kind of see the differences in the title. New World Order being, living in a world, being in a world of, how does the world operate? How is the new way of the world going to operate? Is it going to be through evolving in honesty, or is it going to be through suppression and anger and, just influencing everything around us through adaptation and acceptance, or is it going to just be through denial, suppression, and anger? Anyway, so when you see that, and you see the Celestial, basically an empty universal vessel that is there as a product of divine witness, I guess you can say, or observation. The message about the Eternals is more of, no matter how different things are, no matter how different our ideologies or our philosophies are, no matter what we think about the world, how the world should be, no matter how different we all are, at the end of the day, there is still something that links us all together. And if we understand what that important thing is, then it does not matter how different our ideals or beliefs are. We can still come together. We can still laugh together. We can still be happy together. That was the message behind the Eternals movie. So when you see that the Celestial was more of the empty vessel that represents how we're really going to operate as a world, as a species, then you understand that that empty vessel is just there to be in to just it's just an empty vessel that's there, you know, as a platform in a sense, I guess. But anyway, when you see this wallpaper of Captain America, for Captain America 4, then you see that the stronger message here of the celestial vessel there is basically laying out a field of, no matter how different we all are, there is still something that can bring us all together. So that's the significance of the celestial's head. It's just there as a hollowness, as a field or a foundation waiting to be influenced in such a way. And the forces that are trying to influence humanity are, again, in the ideals of Sam Wilson versus the ideals of Harrison Ford. Yeah, have a good night.